Morning, everyone. We're going to call our July 30th, 2026 Finance and Budget Committee to order. It's 10:50 a.m. First order action is approving last month's meeting minutes. Somebody want to make a motion for that? Supervisor Runyon and Cressida on the second. Any comments about the minutes? I'll call the question. All in favor of approving the minutes as is, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries into privilege of the floor. Public comment? Yes, sir.
Travis Whitehead. Back in August of last year, when this committee was struggling with meeting the tax cap, New York State told us that they were rolling back the required workforce at our jail based on inmate population reductions caused by changes in New York law. Unfortunately, that memo from the state was never passed on to you, another failure in communications, not unlike what precipitated the Peckham fraud earlier this year. It is worse than that, however, as in May of this year, when I foiled for those reports, I was only provided with the 2013 report, which is the one that forced this body to add another $2 million to its budget in 2014 and every year since. I only became aware of this August 25 report after cross-foiling New York State earlier this month. At this point, though, I've asked for a copy. The county has yet to provide that to me, and I suspect has not provided it to you. This is New York State offering budgetary relief, and you still have not been told about it nearly a year later. That's a problem. This is more than unfortunate, as this county continues to be burdened by a requirement the state set for us in 2013 at a peak of incarcerations and has now relaxed. I will also note that of the 50 states, New York remains in the top 2 in regards to the number of guards per inmate at close to 1 to 1. Back in 2004, when the staffing was first set, and in 2013, when it was increased, we had about 50% more inmates to monitor in the jail than we do today. The August 25 requirement now rolls that back to near the initial 2004 level. That is the staffing back to the 2004 level that we operated on for many years. Today, this body budgets for 89 full-time employees to monitor an average jail population of just about 89. Our cost per inmate is near $400 a day. Seems like this body is likely to cut a nurse or a patrolman or a DPW worker as they would a corrections officer. But while required, that corrections officer provides no discernible service to the taxpayers. $400 a day. St. Lawrence, with a jail that we have been told is near a duplicate of ours, spends half of that. Why? Who's going to ask that question? It's your job, not mine. I would I'd not expect any department head to come to this body and say that the job can be done with fewer people. But I would expect that this body be informed of changing state mandates to the good as well as to the bad, and this was not done. Shame on those that kept this information from you and now from me. But now alerted, do your jobs as the protector of our hard-earned tax contributions to eliminate the waste while protecting the services we've come to expect. I've just provided you with some facts that you were denied. I'll share additional insights if asked at any time, but I do not expect to pester this body again because it is your job, not mine, to cut and to add where it makes sense. I'll return in the fall when you have a budget to propose, and I hope you leave me with nothing but good things to say to you at that time. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to add one more point for the committee. At the sheriff and the corrections captain's request, the Office of State Corrections was here last week, about the last 10 days, doing an assessment of our corrections facility. They completed that assessment on Friday. We expect the results of their investigation to be out probably in September. So it will be in time for budget process, we believe. Thanks.
Other public comment? Seeing none, we'll move into our action agenda, request for transfer of funds as attached for committee approval. That's number 1. Somebody want to make a motion to bring that to the floor? Supervisor Runyon on the first and Cressida on the second. Any discussion on transfers? I'll call the question. All in favor of approving the transfer of funds, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Goes into number 2 for informational purposes only. Our journal report approved already by the county administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only one I'll point out is the D code 5110, movement of $10,000 between accounts, and that is to purchase pipe or tile for the highway. And the rest are pretty benign, I believe.
Any comments on the journal report? Moving to number 3, a referral from criminal justice from the sheriff's office, request to amend this year's budget in the amount of $288,122 to reflect receipt of grant funding from the New York State DHS and Emergency Services for their PSAP program. Supervisor Runyon making a motion and Supervisor Mayday on the second. Discussion on number 3. Call the question. All in favor of approving, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Carries into number 4 from planning, a request to establish capital project number H455, TAG Pro Housing, in the amount of $230,000. Supervisor Cressida making a first on 4A and Supervisor Runyon on the second. Any discussion? We received a grant for this. It's reimbursable. Call the question. All in favor of approving 4A, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Carries into 4B. Request to amend the budget in the amount of $1,872.50 to reflect receipt of reimbursement from OCTAX to cover the remaining costs of the 2025 Hospitality Awards ceremony. Somebody want to make a motion for that? Supervisor Runyon, Supervisor Mayday, discussion on 4B. Call the question. All in favor of approving 4B, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? 1 opposed from Supervisor Cressida.
I opposed it.
That motion fails. 4B. Go into 5A. Request to authorize execution of an agreement between ESD to accept grant money not to exceed $100,000 for a feasibility study to determine future use of the Warren County Railroad, as well as to determine a source of funding for the local share in the amount of $50,000. Somebody want to make a motion for 5? Supervisor Runyon, 5A, I should say. Supervisor Mayday made a second. Discussion on 5A. Call the question. All in favor of approving 5A, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries into 5B. Request to establish capital project 456 for, in response to passing 5A, railroad feasibility study.
I'm sorry, can we set back to 5A? You have to, this committee has. to
Oh, determine the sort, yep. So back to 5A. Source of funding, $50,000. I don't know if Superintendent Hados, do you want to add any background to the?
Yes.
I'll add a little bit of background to it. So as you're all aware, we've had on the Public Works Committee meeting for quite some time to take a look at the use of the railroad and what would be the future of that railroad corridor. As you all are aware, we were talking about abandonment at one time. Then we entered into a contract with Rev Rail for 5 years for $100,000 each year, which gets put back in the reserve so we can still maintain the airport. Ethan Gaddy approached us last year and said we can start to look at maybe in the future, if Red Rail is no longer going to be on that site, what would we do to the corridor?
So he was able to find and submit for an Empire State Development Grant for $100,000. It's a 50-50 match. I do not have a funding source within DPW, and that's why we're trying to determine a funding source here today. So I would leave it to the committee. I'm not sure if it would be fund balance, contingency. I guess I would leave that up to you.
Let me ask you the question, Kevin. If you had $50,000, would you think it's an efficient use of your D fund?
I do. I mean, I certainly think we need to look at the railroad and what we want to do with it for the future. I would hope that Rev Rail is going to be there for quite some time. I think their contract comes back up in 2000 or 2028 is when their contract expires. I certainly think they'll renew, but as we have experienced in the past, participation or attendance, as when we had the rail trains up, it just dies off over the years. Now, I don't think we've seen a significant drop off with Rev Rail's numbers, but they certainly have dropped a little.
Comments from the committee? Supervisor Runyon?
Ocean Rail doesn't use the entire railroad tracks, though.
They most certainly do.
Oh, they do.
They do. Their contract for the $100,000 a year was to use the entire rail, all 40 miles of it. The part that they don't use is there's maybe a very small portion in the very beginning down in Hadley or in Saratoga County area that we still own the rail. Beyond that, they use the rest of the rail. And the rail stations to go along with it.
Okay. So we need to determine the funding source and come back to our motions. We do have 175,000, about 7 months into 12 months in our contingency fund, and we often use that for local matches. I would say less than 50,000. Does the committee think about that? I mean, we signaled unanimously that we do want to spend the 50,000 is worth. Chairman or County Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The comments I'd like to make about this is this was part of our comprehensive plan to take a look at the rail. As you know, last year, we had about a $600,000 bill to repair things at the rail line. If we have additional washouts of rail, culverts, even a bridge, we're on the hook to pay for those repairs, and it comes out of the county funds to do so. We can't just let the rail, I believe, fall into disrepair. I'd look to the superintendent for your comment on that. But so we're in a position where if we do not do this study, we will not be able to apply for grant funding from many different sources to do something to at least keep the rail operational. You know, this is, I think it's something that's very critical at this point, I believe. And I'd look to the superintendent for that, but I know that our planning department has worked extensively on this, and we've said we can't go anywhere without having a study that tells what needs to be done to the rail line. So, you know, we could go through the process to abandon it. That's always an option, but that's a long, drawn-out process, and we may not be successful in that, I don't believe.
Mr. Chairman, so just to be clear, without this study, our chances are better at getting the grant, or we simply can't apply for the grant without a study attached to it?
I believe the answer to that is our chances are better for getting the types of grants we'd like to apply for.
Yeah, I will add, it's much better having a study to be able to apply for these grants. They look at those studies and say, okay, it's worthwhile to fund these projects. If you don't have the grant and I don't want to say winging it. If you don't have a study and you're winging it, it's less likely you're going to get a grant.
Other comments? Just ask slightly different conversation while we're on it, but the Saratoga County track we own, do we own the underlying real property in a different county, or we just
We
own
own
the
the
metal?
track
The track, okay.
down to Anton Mountain Road, I believe is
Okay.
the,
I just didn't know if it was something we wanted to look at as the surplus working group, the surplus property. Um, All right, does somebody want to amend the motion? Who was on the first?
You already voted on that motion, so I would do a second motion to.
Okay.
approve the funding.
Somebody want to make a motion to appropriate 50,000 from our contingency fund to provide the 50% funding for this study. Supervisor Runyon, Supervisor Mayday, discussion on that. I'll call the question. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes into 5B.2. Request to establish capital project H456 railroad feasibility study in the amount of $100,000. And did we get a first and a second for that? No. Supervisor Run, you want to make a first? Supervisor Cressida, discussion on that? Call the question. All in favor of approving 5B, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Carries into 5C from Public Works, request to appropriate, and these could have a nice opportunity to go together, 30,000 from a DM code, which is our machinery code, to cover the cost of replacing the Hague above ground fuel tanks. The outer shell of it is cracked, and we want to replace it before the inner shell cracks. And 5D, request to appropriate 114,000 also from DM fund to cover the other portion of this fuel tank replacement. So 144 total. Somebody want to make a motion for that? Supervisor Runyon and Cressida on the first and second. Discussion on that.
Can I just clarify that?
Is that for 5C and D? Sorry. Yes, yes. Okay. Appreciate the superintendent finding the money. There was discussion of whether we had the money in the budget for this year, and he was able to find it. So go ahead. Yeah, thank you.
thank you. Yeah, we were fortunate enough that I do have some money in the motor fuel farm reserve. Typically, we have at the end of each year, whatever's left over goes back into that reserve. That 30,000 does wipe out that reserve, but we will see at the end of this year how much gets put back into there. And then the other code, the road machinery fund unappropriated surplus, again, that's money left over that stays back in there for the following year. So we have a fair amount of money in there, which some will be used for, I'm assuming this year's budget from some equipment as well, but this was able to cover it, so we wouldn't have to take any money from the fund balance or anything else.
Any other comments? I'll call the question. All in favor of approving 5C and D, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries into 6A. Potential for A and B to be bundled. Request to amend 2026 budget in the amount of $18,762.60 to reflect receipt from the BOE ballots by mail grant. And B is $15,094.28 to reflect receipt from funding from the BOE's general election grant. Somebody want to make a motion for 6A and B? Supervisor Runyon and Mayday. Discussion on those. All in favor of approving 6 and B together, 6A and B together, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Carries into 6C. Request to create capital project H437 boardroom renovation in the amount of $50,000.
I'd clarify that that's not a creation, it's actually an increase.
Increase, yeah, request to increase, and it's not for the boardroom, it's for the committee room ultimately, right?
Right, but it
Yep,
ties into.
to
this
that
So
project,
that's why
capital
we
project.
use the ARPA
Yep.
money.
Request to increase that capital project for $50,000. I'll make a motion for that. Supervisor Cressida and Runyon. Discussion on that. Supervisor Cressida.
What is it for?
So there was $50,000 available to us from the Regional Planning Board, I believe. It's to enhance the committee room, which is very out of date. It's where many Regional Planning Board meetings are held. And I don't know if the county administrator, who's the chair of that board, wants to make the 50,000 for committee room updates. So it would be new table and chairs and things like that in the committee room, and really no financial hit to our direct county budget, correct?
That's correct. The $50,000 was ARPA money that was initially going to be spent by the Regional Planning Board. They agreed that they did not need to spend that. And so we diverted that to complete renovations in the committee room. What we're going to get is replace the chairs with chairs that are similar to these chairs. We're going to purchase an OWL camera so that people who come in, like the planning board, the LDC, the EDC, to run meetings in there, the IDA, will have the ability to run their meetings from that room. And I believe it's also, we're going to replace blinds, the window blinds in there with something that'll
Fell
block.
off the wall.
And so that, and we don't think it's going to take all of the money necessary. We believe there's probably half of it will be returned to the general fund, but put in the IT reserve where we took money out to do this boardroom.
Can I just, if it doesn't use the full 50,000, instead of sending it back to treasury, it'll go to the IT reserve?
It'll go to the IT reserve. And the treasurer's already looked into that and agrees we can do that.
All right, other comments, questions on 6C? We have a first and a second?
You do.
I'll call the question. All in favor of approving 6C, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries into,
Let me turn the page, I
Yep.
just want to circle back to 5 B.
B.
Yeah, for the 100,000. There's round 16 funding that Heather's been working on for some events. I'm not sure if that fits into it, but I could follow up with her right after this.
Sure.
I don't know if time is right or if it's in, but it's worth, if possible, to send in an application with it. So would you like?
Because of the nexus
Yeah.
between tourism and what the rail could do for us,
Yeah.
like what RevRail does, sure. Yeah, that'd be great. Does that need?
Well, why don't at least
Just an
it's an
informal
option and
conversation.
I can come back.
Yep.
Okay,
We will need committee action.
all right.
Okay, all right, thanks. 6D from the county attorney's office, request to amend the budget for this year for $100,000 to increase one revenue budget code, insurance recoveries, which was received from the county's insurance carrier related to the ACH fraud. So we received 250,000 from an insurance company. This is 100,000 also from a different insurer, Tokyo Marine. Supervisor Runyon on the first, Supervisor Cressida. Discussion on 6D.
This was travel.
Yeah, just to clarify, we received 250,000 from our cyber insurance carrier, and this 100,000 is from our travelers, our insurance carrier.
Thank you. Any other comments? All in favor of approving 6D, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Carries into 6E. From IT, request to appropriate $27,000 from Computer Reserve Fund to cover costs for computers, equipment, software for the county clerk's department. Supervisor Runyon's making a motion. Supervisor Mayday on the second. Discussion on 6E. All in favor? Please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Carry into 7, referral from the Risk and Safety Committee. We have our Warren County investment policy before you in the packet. Our Risk and Safety Manager is here. They used the Risk and Finance Subcommittee and Risk and Safety Committee, County Attorney and County Investment Consultants all met to craft this and started with a template from the Controller's Office. And it's intended to be reviewed annually if adopted. Somebody want to make a motion for 7? Supervisor Cressida and Runyon on the second. Discussion on 7. Does the county attorney want to provide any?
Yeah, just a brief background. So I'd like to thank the Risk and Safety Committee for their time and effort, and our risk manager who did a tremendous job drafting the investment policy. The investment policy is actually required by state law. The general municipal law does require us to adopt one. At this point in time, we don't have a finalized policy. So it is recommended that we do adopt this so that we come into compliance with the general municipal law.
All right, we have motions on the floor. Other discussion on 7? I'll call the question. All in favor of approving 7, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries into 8.2. The rest of these were just approved in personnel. Request to amend the table of organization and salary schedule to create 3 new fire prevention and building code enforcement officer positions effective August 20th, 2026. Somebody want to make a motion for that? Supervisor Runyon, Supervisor Cressida, discussion on those. We won't fill them, excuse me. Will we fund the positions? I'm having to
We will,
create them but not fund them.
if we fund the positions this year, we will invoice the city.
Okay. All right, thank you. Other discussion? All in favor of approving 8.2, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Carries into 8.3. Request to amend the table of organization and salary schedule to fund the position of principal legal recording clerk and unfund but retain the legal recording clerk position effective August 20th. Any motion for that? Supervisor Runyon. Supervisor Mayday on the second. Discussion on 8.3. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries into public comment period. County Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With your permission, I would like to ask the committee to reconsider item 4B. Am I allowed to do that, Amanda?
Well, there has to be a substantial change to the proposal.
This committee voted it down, so the only way it can come back up is if there's a substantial change to the request. So it's, unless there's a workaround there that the committee's into, it's a dead end. We'll have to come back through OCTAX.
So I just need to inform you of what happened, and I don't, so this was approved by Resolution 66 of 2026 to pay this amount, $1872.50, to the Steamboat Company for the end-of-year steamboat event they had last year. And most of it is paid by donations, but they were short $1872. So based on that resolution, we have paid the Steamboat Company with county general fund dollars. So there was a resolution that was approved by the Tourism Committee to reimburse Office of Workforce Development this $1872.50. What this resolution was asking for was to create a location for the money to be deposited into from occupancy tax. If we don't do that, then the county is paying the $1872.50 out of general funds. So just wanted to make the committee aware of that. Thanks.
Supervisor Cressida.
Mr. Chair. So we just voted on it and they voted to move forward though.
No, it failed.
Because it was,
Because you voted
You
no. and
voted
there's
no,
only,
so it failed.
3-1. So if the committee is unanimously unopposed to bringing it back for consideration, we can do that. If anyone is opposed to bringing it back, then we cannot do that.
so this got approved by OCTAX at the last meeting, correct?
Yes.
And now it sits in front of here to.
To amend
Just
it.
get a
Money.
fund location
It's
in
not-
workforce development to put the money into, because you can't just
Right. But
arbitrarily,
it's already been approved, so.
yeah, and it's already been paid, so.
Okay. Okay, so I read it a little differently. So, if it's already approved and if you want to reverse and I don't know if we can do that.
Is everyone okay with considering it again?
Yeah, I want to hold that
Right.
up.
So we'll come back to 4B, request to amend this year's budget in the amount of $1872.50 to reflect receipt from OCTAX to cover that cost, as indicated in Resolution 66 of 2026. Somebody want to make a motion? Supervisor Runyon, Supervisor Mayday, discussion on that. I'll call the question. All in favor of approving 4B, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries. And we are back to privilege of the floor. Chairman Garrity.
Yep. Excuse me. I just received my sales tax distribution for the second quarter of the year. And I'm going to ask everybody to go home and read what you got compared to the second biggest town in the county. And I understand the lake communities and I'm happy for you. But I have the second most populated town in the county. I get the third least amount of sales tax. So there's something wrong. I have $19 million worth of exempt properties that belong to Warren County in my community, which I'm happy about because it brings people to work. I had a study done on sales tax once before by Mike Swan. We collect more sales tax in our community than we get because of assessed values. And I can't raise my assessed values. I suppose I could, but it wouldn't be right to do that. I want everybody to look at your sales tax. And some communities could be 300, 400, 500 people less than what we have. And they get $700,000 more in sales tax than I get. And that's for 2 quarters this year. It's just not right. And I know the board won't pass it, but it's hard to run the second largest community in this county and get the third least amount of sales tax. I just want you to know that. The other thing I'm not happy about is the cannabis. We put the cannabis store in our community to get our sales tax. The treasurer's office has not distributed any of our sales tax since maybe January, February, because New York State can't get their act together. And so that money sits in the treasurer's office undistributed to the 3 communities who should get it: Warrensburg, Queensbury, and the city of Glens Falls, because they can't figure out how to distribute it to us. When I get my sales tax report and I get the third lowest amount of sales tax, I'm not getting my cannabis money because of snafus from the state of New York. I'm fed up. I'm fed up, and I've tried to get this board to look at it, but I ask each one of you to go home and look at your sales tax numbers. And you ought to thank your lucky stars, because if you had to run the community that's the second biggest community in this county, we're getting shortchanged, and nobody cares on this board. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Other public comment? Motion to adjourn. Supervisor Runyon, Supervisor Cressida, all in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. Any